When it's time to hit form, now is the perfect time. And Arsenal have done just that. This is the Arsenal Raw Reaction Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal Raw Reaction Show, joining you every single morning after the latest fixture at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. It is very much appreciated. I hope you're doing good. I hope you're doing well. Really appreciate you all tuning in and being here. It is greatly appreciated. And certainly after a 4-0 win, which is not something, we've been too gifted with of late. I'm trying to think back now on our results, going back 4-0. I'm looking for a number 4, scrolling back. I'm still scrolling back further. 7 goals against PSV. But in the league, 5 goals. The last time we scored at least 4 or 5. Manchester City on February 2nd was the last time Arsenal scored 4 or more goals in the league. To go back even further, it was the 5-1 win over Crystal Palace on the 21st of December. The time that we scored 4 goals specifically in a Premier League game. I'm still scrolling back. I'm on October. 4-2 against Leicester on the 28th of September. It's the last time Arsenal scored specifically 4 goals in a single game. So it's not been a regular number popping up in Arsenal's scorelines this season. Last season, of course, Arsenal were scoring far more freely. And with the pressure off somewhat in the league, it wasn't completely off. Arsenal needed to win the game. They've put themselves now in a very good position that we'll talk about later. But Arsenal dispatched Ipswich with relative ease, even with or without it being a level playing field in terms of the number of players on the pitch. But good morning to you all joining us in the chat box. Really appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Rich, good morning to you, to Brian and Knowledge and Temi and Carl. We've got Paul and Arasilki and Brian and Steve and NSW and our other Pauls, our other Steves, Claire, Popeye, Dave, Rob. We've got Mike, we've got Zoom, we've got Amira and Martin. Thank you to you all and plenty more for tuning in. I start this show with an apology, though, for our audio listeners. How ironic was it not that yesterday I sat here and said, thank you so much to everyone that listens on audio platforms. Can we go over and drop a 5-star review? Because the one day that I was basically, because I drove to Ipswich yesterday. It was an early kind of drive. Had to be at the stadium around 12 o'clock. Left the house pretty soon after we recorded the show in the morning. And when I arrived at Ipswich at about 12:30 in the end, it took a little while because some of the traffic issues. And I was picking up some people as well. The messages I was getting was, where's the audio? There's no audio. There's no audio show today. And so I looked on Acast and I'd uploaded it, but it hadn't gone through, which I'm so sorry about. And I can only apologize for something that's just one of those sad mistakes, unfortunately. And I hope that you will still leave your 5-star reviews. This show will, of course, be going up on the audio platform, hopefully. And I'll be around to double check that it definitely does. But yesterday's didn't. So sorry about that. I thought, by the time, because the game was about to kick off, and the most of the show yesterday was about the game. So it wouldn't have made any sense really to upload a show after the fact, basically. So, but you will, of course, get today's show on the audio. You know what I mean. But apologies for that. Right, let's jump to today's stories. Of course, we're here to talk about Arsenal's 4-0 victory over Ipswich Town in the Premier League. Great time to get a really big scoreline, of course, Arsenal securing that result. And it certainly comes as a welcome addition to Arsenal's league form, because of late, Arsenal's league form has not been particularly wonderful. We have to be honest with ourselves about it. It's not been particularly great. It's just not given us the highs of last season when we were battering teams left, right, and centre. Well, this is one where obviously Arsenal were just a dominant force, looked better than, so many times better than Ipswich. Ipswich rarely threatened throughout the fixture. And it's interesting that because they defended so well when we played them earlier on in the season. Arsenal only managed a 1-goal win against Ipswich at home, of course. But Arsenal's change of system, change of shape, change of team and some of the changes to the 11, of course, as well, worked. The plan worked. The system worked. The changes worked. We're going to talk about some of the individual differences that we noticed in the game and plenty more. But it was 3 points and it was 4 more goals on the board that sees Arsenal's goal difference now rise up to 34 plus. They've scored 61 goals this season, still well off what they scored last season. But 61 goals are up, and I think it's 100 goals now they've scored across all competitions during the current campaign. But moving forwards, the lineup was stronger, I think, than most expected. I was right that Saka, I thought, would start this game. Trossard up top, we got right as well. Rice, Merino in the side. But I thought maybe Partey might start, but he was left out entirely, didn't play a single minute. I don't know if that's as a result, of course, of that suspension. Is it a punishment of that suspension? I don't know. It was a silly decision of Partey to get himself booked and miss the first leg against PSG. But the back four, White, Saliba, Kiwior was what I thought it would be. But at the left-hand side, not Kieran Tierney, but instead Alexander Zinchenko. I was very happy with Zinchenko's performance. I thought he kind of took on the role of what Miles Lewis-Skelly has shown us to be so good at, with kind of the inversion into midfield. And it was kind of a Zinchenko display of kind of his first couple of seasons, if you like, at the club. It was a Zinchenko performance that we'd come so used to seeing as to why Arsenal had risen up the league and were challenging once again, because he was just so good at that inverted position, moving into the midfield, supporting the attack, suffocating the Ipswich defence with, these kind of recycling passes. It was a really, really strong performance from Zinchenko, which was definitely a positive thing. But Arsenal took the lead early on through Leandro Trossard. He gave Arsenal the lead. It was a good move down the right-hand side. Bukayo Saka in the before the red card, Saka was really on it. Fantastic speed, fantastic dribbling ability and directiveness of his play. Found the cross into the box. I think Odegaard gets a very, very slight touch on the ball. I'm not sure if they did end up giving the assists, because obviously for fantasy football reasons. Let me have a quick look to see if they did give this assist to Saka or if they gave it to Odegaard. Let's scroll to find the... here we go. 1-0 Arsenal. Who got the assist? Oh, it's further down than this. Odegaard, yes. They did give Odegaard the assist. Very slight touch on the ball. And certainly, I think that when it comes to... when it comes to a player like Odegaard and assists, you don't necessarily want them to be in this form, where it's kind of getting a slight touch on the ball. But I think for me anyway, that Trossard's finish, despite having to go to ground to get it into the back of the net, was obviously very, very strong indeed. So a much better performance from Leandro Trossard as a centre-forward. We have not seen the best from him in that position of late. I remember the Leicester game, he wasn't particularly great. The Everton game, yes, he got the assist for Sterling, but again, didn't really offer loads in those games. So it was good to see him get on the score sheet, and it wasn't just a single goal here. We'll talk about the other goal that he scored now in a minute. But one of the goals of the season for me would follow. You know exactly how I feel about the types of goals that Arsenal score and what my types of favourite goals are. Yes, a Declan Rice free kick against Real Madrid from 30 yards is amazing. Yes, a screamer from Aaron Ramsey against Galatasaray from 40 yards is brilliant. And I love those types of goals too. I love an absolute thunder, you-know-what, from outside the box. I do. But my personal favourite type of goal is a well-worked passing move. It's why Jack Wilshere's against Norwich is my favourite Arsenal goal of all time. This was one of my favourite Arsenal goals of the season. Brilliant move down the right. Saka showing his raw speed and pace to get him behind. Brilliant little flick from Merino. If you think Merino is trying to shoot with that back heel, then you don't know the guy's brain and how it works. He knows exactly where his teammate's going to be at the back post. He knows Martinelli's going to be running into that area, and he flicks the ball purposefully into that area just for a simple tap-in. Gorgeous goal. Brilliant stuff. So high IQ. One of my favourite goals that we have scored this season. And then the mood sombers because Bukayo Saka's ankle is subjected to a horrible challenge. An absolutely horrible challenge. I sat in the press room after the game and I could overhear conversations between some of the Ipswich reporters talking about how they felt that they didn't think it was too horrible. Like they agreed that it was a red card, but they thought discussions surrounding it being a horror challenge were a bit over the top. I don't agree. This is a horrible challenge. And I don't doubt that what Kieran McKenna said about Leif Davis being, a sound guy and he's not a malicious player and this isn't really him. I believe him. I believe that I don't really know Leif Davis that well, but this was a horrible challenge. This was a disgusting piece of play, and he rightfully deserved to get sent off. I don't associate any ill thought with Davis, but in this moment, it was a horrible challenge. It's from behind. It's late. It's nowhere near the ball. It's on the standing leg. It's as Saka's facing his own goal. It endangers the opposition. It ticks every single box required for a red card. And fair play to Chris Kavanagh, a sentence I never thought I'd ever say again, or ever for that matter, after what we saw earlier in the season. But fair play to Chris Kavanagh for sending off Leif Davis and recognising on the pitch that the endangerment on Bukayo Saka. It's a horrible challenge. Now, I felt the press box at Ipswich is very much situated where the fans are right behind you. It's not like where you're elevated or you've got rows of press and you're kind of detached in a way like you are at the Emirates, like you've got a back wall behind you and no fans, similar to Old Trafford, similar to the Bernabeu, where there's kind of a wall. At Ipswich, the press box is in the crowd. And so you are at the full mercy of all of the chants, all of the noise that gets subjected to the players from the fans around you. And the Ipswich fans, who, of course, the majority of whom don't get the benefit of seeing a replay, decided to boo their lungs out. The most energy those fans have probably put into anything this season we witnessed yesterday at Portman Road Stadium, with the veracity, the vociferousness, that's the word I want, that they booed Bukayo Saka as a result of the fact that he didn't go off on a stretcher. That's the only reason he got booed, is that he was able to carry on. That's the only reason that Saka was booed, is because he wasn't carried off on a stretcher. That's what Saka did wrong in that moment, is that his ankle decided not to snap. That's the only reason he was booed in this game. And the reason why I have very little, feeling of like consciousness about the fact that the fans didn't have the benefit of replays, because the TVs in front of me could be seen by the fans that were behind me. And they watched it. They got up, they put their hands on the railings behind the press box to peek over our shoulders to look at those pictures. And those same fans that were able to see the replays still booed him, still thought it was a ridiculous challenge. And that every time there was a foul, there was one particular guy behind me shouting, "Send him off! Send him off, I say! Send him off!" And I know it's football fan culture, and I know it's all that, but my goodness gracious, I've never heard so much vociferous booing just because a player's ankle didn't snap at the threat of a horrendous tackle. It was an awful challenge and so worthy of a red card. And we're very lucky that Saka is okay. He was limping after the match. He did carry on. He did play in part through to the second half. And of course, we saw him with strapping with ice around his ankle. It's just precautionary. Yes, I'm sure he's in pain. Yes, I'm sure it hurts. But the fact he was able to carry on was a positive thing. Ligaments in your ankle, they stretch, and as long as they don't go ping, your ankle's quite elastic, quite thankfully, and it can recover quite quickly. But Saka, of course, keeps on continuing to obviously face these types of challenges, and you have to feel for him when he's older. You have to feel for him towards the end of his career, how he's going to be affected by all these challenges. But it's because referees don't take this type of action enough that these challenges continue to, take place. But Arsenal took that advantage. They moved forward, and in the second half, they managed to get their third goal, a new corner routine. Declan Rice moving out 1-2 before playing a ball inside to Leandro Trossard. Spin, shoots low and beats Palmer. Easy goal for Arsenal. Really poorly defended. There was a lot of poor defending. It's hard to analyse this game really in the context of what it might mean for us going forwards, because Ipswich were terrible. Like, it was a really poor performance, and you can see why they started going down. They are bad. But, and maybe if they had more to play for, of course, they would have been better, like they were perhaps at the Emirates, to be fair to them. But they were awful. They were really, really bad on the day. And just basically it was attack versus defense for most of the fixture. I dread to think what what the possession stats, what it all was. Let's have a quick look, shall we, what the stats were. Arsenal had 75% possession, 24 shots, 7 on target, 752 passes, 91% pass accuracy, 12 corners on the day. Only 1 offside, which is a positive thing. You'll never guess who it was. It was offside. But yeah, it was a long day for Ipswich, and Arsenal scored their 4th, courtesy of Ethan Nwaneri, who got on the field, of course, for Bukayo Saka. I was writing quite, not critically, but I was writing about the fact that Nwaneri, since kind of Saka's come back into the fold, has struggled, I think, to impact on games when he's got those opportunities. Well, it was really good to see him score. Yes, it was the benefit of a deflection. Yes, that benefit was the reason why the ball went in the back of the net. But at the same time, it was good to see him be direct, get into the box, get into those dangerous areas, find that strike and take the confidence to have the shot. And that will do him a world of good, getting that goal. Yet another Premier League goal for Ethan Nwaneri. And of course, you can see there in the background of the picture, Nathan Butler-Odegaard. He also got the opportunity to come off the bench, which was a great chance to see another, I say young player. He's, 4 or 5 years older than Nwaneri. But it was good to see him. He had the opportunity to score, made a good shot that Palmer just palmed over the top of the crossbar. Nearly could have scored. He obviously will be leaving at the end of the season. I think there's no illusions about that. But certainly it was good to see. And it was nice to see the Arsenal fans singing his name as well. Just a few mentions about some of the performances of individual players. You have to talk about Mika Merino, because he was just, for me, he was man of the match on the day. Such a good midfield performance. So good in all aspects. And if he is to return to the midfield against PSG, that defensive element of his game is going to be really important, but also the recycling of the ball. He's just so good at kind of taking players on, turning them around, playing balls into dangerous areas, getting the ball into space inside, finding the right pass at the right time for his teammates. What a turnaround. What a signing Mika Merino has been for Arsenal this summer. You know, there was a lot of doubt about whether or not we should have signed Merino. There's a lot of people making, very early conclusions about him. And I tried to warn you. I said Kai Havertz has given you this warning once before about writing off signing so early on during their time with the club. People don't listen. They have to have an opinion that's really harsh and really towards one end of the spectrum or the other really quickly. And you're made to look silly again. And Mika Merino has once again made people look very, very silly with the second half of the season performances, both not just at centre forward, but also today or yesterday in midfield as well. Really positive performance from him. But he did get my man of the match and the highest rating of any player on the team. Was very, very happy with his performance indeed yesterday. And I asked Arteta about Merino after the game in the press conference also. And I said, we've been so very exposed to seeing Merino play at centre forward. He again reminded us that he can play exceptionally in midfield. And he said, yeah, well, that's why he's played there his whole career. But obviously we have a very short memory sometimes, and we see him as a 9. And now it's almost strange to see him in midfield. I think he did really, really well. It's just so positive to see that performance from him. I need to talk about Martin Odegaard, though. Because the last 2 games, we talked a little bit on yesterday's show. Apologies for those that are audio listeners and wouldn't have heard this, but we did talk on yesterday's show how about I felt that I had really underrated Odegaard's performance against Real Madrid in the second leg. And actually on a second watch, I was very, very impressed with Martin Odegaard's performance, and particularly after being inspired by what Micah Richards was saying in his post-match analysis as well about Martin Odegaard. And again, yesterday, I put those same glasses on that I rewatched the game against Madrid on to watch the game in the flesh against Ipswich. And I was like, I'm going to make a real conscious effort to watch Odegaard in much more detail this game and not look for the binary elements of goals and assists and those types of things, even though he did get an assist, even though it was a rather fortunate one. I was really happy with Martin Odegaard's performance yesterday. And actually, I feel as though that maybe, and again, I saw people trying to kind of slam him once again, and again bashing Odegaard. And obviously, yes, he had that shot from outside the box to hit the post, and maybe that's what people remember most about his game. But I really encourage you to go back and watch Odegaard's performance and talk about the fact that every time he receives the ball, he moves it into space. He turns and finds players that are in more advantageous positions. It was a really, really, really good performance yesterday from Martin Odegaard. And it really does feel like maybe gradually, slowly, we're starting to see quietly Martin Odegaard get back to some of his best influence on the game. Really good on the transition. Really good finding Saka. It's the first time since November. A good friend of the show, Art de Roche, pointed out in the press conference afterwards that he said since November that Saka, White, and Odegaard have all started together. Arteta said, unbelievable, eh? And yeah, it's the first time they've played together. And Arteta said, yeah, I'm very happy for Ben, especially because he's missed a lot of football. He's been so consistent and regular in the last few seasons with us. And this season, for different reasons, he hasn't been able to play that many minutes. Today, I think he played a really good game. So very happy because, he's got a lot of quality. He brings something else to that unit. And it was very good to finally see them. But Odegaard, gradually getting back. And I think, if you're looking at yesterday's performance, and goodness me, we're still seeing people in the chat box talking about Odegaard in a awful way, despite the fact in his last 2 games has been very good. I don't know what to tell you. I just think that sadly there's some rather tinted glasses being worn by some at the moment, and there's this. You've been convinced that Odegaard is never going to get back to the full capacity that we've seen from him in the past. He's had a bad season. I don't think he's fully fit. I don't think he ever recovered from that ankle situation. I think he'll really benefit from a break in the summer and come back for next season. But suggestions, of course, from the most reactionary people, or reactive people, I should say, among us, don't help this situation. It's amazing how quickly people want to turn on our own players, and yet we expect them to be brilliant, and yet so many of us turn on them so quickly. Martin Odegaard had a great game yesterday, and he had a great game against Madrid as well, and it was really, really good to see that. And it's clicking, this idea that Arteta's switched things up yesterday. Trossard played at centre forward, but Merino was in midfield. But Merino did move into those kind of attacking areas. We saw that for the second goal, obviously, as well. And that style, that system is clicking, and it's working. And that lends into what we were just talking about there. Kwame says, I don't mind being proven wrong. Good, because you were in the last 2 games. But when it comes to Arteta's kind of system and the change and the rotation and the need to kind of rest players at the same time, that was great to see. And it was great to see that even though we played with different players in different roles, and Rice moving to 6, I thought Rice still had a really, really positive game. The context is important. The context of the game against Ipswich being the fact that they were standoffish. They didn't really have much to play for. They weren't a good team at all. And it's going to be a completely different animal when we play against not just PSG, but I think that Crystal Palace will pose a different challenge, of course, on Wednesday. And I will be intrigued to see about how we set things up going forward. Will Partey play, considering he can't play against PSG next week? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But that issue that we've got there with the Partey absence, yesterday at least, there were some really positive signs, I thought, that this has, that there is a solution to a degree. Before we move to the broader context, I do want to discuss this. I was driving yesterday because it would have been a nightmare to get public transport to Ipswich yesterday. And I listened to the 5 Live commentary of the Liverpool game on the way home with Art and with Issam from the Mail, of course, in the car on the way home. And when the goal that Leicester scored that was ruled out by, I don't know who it was. I couldn't tell you. Was it, who was it yesterday? Referee, someone in the chat box will know. Was it Anthony Taylor? I don't think it was, but someone will know in the chat that the referee ruled out Leicester's goal that was scored by Conor Cody because Patson Daka was deemed to have fouled Alisson. I mean, the commentary was just adamant that this was a blatant foul. I think it was Clinton Morrison that was saying that this is just a blatant foul that's going to be ruled out. The rightfully decision was made. And I just believed them. I have a lot of time for 5 Live commentary. I really enjoy listening to BBC Radio 5 Live. It's my go-to when I listen to radio commentary. I think it's the best. And I was raving about it to the boys in the car on the way back because we're having a discussion about listening to football on radio. But I was really disappointed when I got in and watched the clip back of the goal that was Stuart Atwell. Thank you, Tom. That was ruled out because I'm like, you look at the size of Alisson and you look at the size of Patson Daka. And yes, Patson Daka makes a challenge for the ball on Alisson. But is it because Alisson's a goalkeeper that there's a foul here? Because obviously if there's any other player, any other type of player on the field, a defender, a midfielder, forward, whatever, we all know that for the level of contact there is with this, that you're never going to see a foul given because it's the goalkeeper. I always feel like goalkeepers get an incredible amount of overprotection. And I think this was the perfect example of the protection that's given to goalkeepers that isn't given to anyone else. Goalkeepers have the advantage of being able to use every single cell in a goalkeeper's body can be used to prevent play. Obviously, no one else on the football pitch of any other position has this ability to be able to use any other facet of their being to stop it. And I don't think personally that what Patson Daka does, and I know this will come across quite biased because it's against Liverpool or whatever, but if this was the other way around, I don't want to see decisions like this stop goals from being scored. Alisson needs to be stronger. He can use his arms. He can use every part of his body here to try and win the ball. Whereas Patson Daka has only the chance to go, and all he does is go shoulder to shoulder with the goalkeeper. That's all he does. And it was a point of this was made that Patson Daka looks at the keeper and knows what he's doing. And I'm like, what do you mean? He looks at the keeper and knows what he's doing. Of course he needs to look where the ball keeper is. He needs to look where the player is so he can challenge for the ball more effectively. Of course he does. This for me is a ridiculous, another example. Shepo says, Tom, the league is gone. Oh, we know it's long gone. Don't get me wrong. This isn't about the league. This is about officiating again in the league. This is about, to a degree, the fortune that Liverpool have received this season, of course, that Arsenal simply haven't. But I'm just saying here, and I will say this till the day I die, but if any decision that's gone against Arsenal this season happens in a game that Liverpool are playing in, I just don't happen to see it going that way. Based on all of the evidence that we've witnessed, in my honest opinion, I just don't see it happening. Arsenal would just feel to be officiated in such a strange way. I honestly think that the primary reason is that the referees are just awful. They are just awful. And the quality of officiating in this league is horrendous. In the Crystal Palace game yesterday, I don't know if you saw, but Crystal Palace saw a player sent off yesterday for an action that only moments earlier, one of the Bournemouth players, Chris Richards, was sent off for Palace. Only moments earlier, one of the Bournemouth players was also guilty of and didn't find themselves sent off. It was absolutely nuts. I think it was Alex Scott. And Alex Scott wasn't sent off for doing the exact same thing that Chris Richards does like 20 minutes later or whatever it is. It's a joke. And it's inconsistency, that we see over and over and over again by officials in this league. I don't know who the referee was in the game between. Was it? I have a feeling it might have been Darren England now I think about it. But it's just one of those awful decisions, again, that perpetuates this issue in the league that we have terrible referees in England. They are awful. So as it stands in the Premier League, where we are at, Liverpool on 79 points. Arsenal moves 7 points clear of Newcastle in second place. Nottingham Forest play today. Of course, they can close the gap again to Arsenal to 6 points, but Arsenal's win there and Newcastle's defeat to Aston Villa puts Arsenal in a very strong position to finish in that second spot. Aston Villa moving up into 7th spot on 57 points themselves, just 2 points, believe it or not. They're 7th, but they're 2 points behind third place Newcastle. That's the race for the European places. Very exciting. Very, very exciting indeed, seeing how close things are across the league right now. You've got Chelsea getting a really important win. 2 late goals against Fulham to give them 3 points, move them up to 57. Had they have not won that game, they would have been in 7th themselves, just showing you how tight it is. Nottingham Forest can move Chelsea back down to 6th. They can move City back down to 5th as well. City getting an important victory for themselves, as we said yesterday, against Manchester City, of course, as well. And so it leaves Arsenal sitting pretty in second so far. They play Crystal Palace on Wednesday. Very interesting game because, of course, both of those teams on Wednesday are due to play a semi-final next. So what will that mean for either of those teams' selections, for how they approach the game, how many tough tackles we might see? We'll have to wait and see. But both of those teams have 2 very important games as their next fixture. Well, let's go to part 2. Your questions, your thoughts in the chat box and more right after this. All right, this is part 2 of the show. We tackle some of your questions, some of your thoughts and feelings. I have to. I can't believe I failed to do this. But Man United, I completely skipped over the fact that Man United were beaten at home by Wolves. Amazing. You can beat Lyon in the Europa League. I know they rotate a lot of players, and all of their attention is going very much on the Europa League and trying to finish and win the Europa League. But my goodness gracious me, what an awful football team. What a terrible, terrible team they are. And yet Arsenal can't even win Old Trafford. It's incredible how football works, but it is what it is. They're 14th in the table. They're set to finish with their worst Premier League finish of all time. They're 11 points behind 8th, where they finished last season, of course. Ruben Amorim has taken them backwards since taking over as well. So, yeah, incredible, really. Sean says, Tom, please can you bring on a PSG fan onto the channel when you preview the Arsenal game? I watched a video a few hours ago and they are talking absolute trash about my club. Are they? I mean, isn't that just how football works? Away says, can you ask the question to Arteta if Odegaard requires a fix-up surgery? No. Perry Perry says, Oyedeji says, get some game time. What? There is no point in giving him game time, right, Tom? I mean, I don't think it really matters, does it? Does it really matter? I don't think so. I don't think it matters at all. At the end of the day, I think it's a little bit of a reward for, he's been on the bench a lot. He's been helping out, obviously. He's been a part of the team in training, helping with numbers, been on the bench loads. I don't think it's that big of a deal that he got some minutes at all. TC says, Kwame says, TC, can referees be charged for costing clubs games? I don't think so. Major Lee says, so happy Butler Odegaard has been given a chance. Do you think he'll get another shot before the end of the season? Probably. He might get some minutes here and there. Some of the games that don't matter or the minutes have gone for those games. Yeah, there is a chance that we might see him get the opportunity. 11 Mod says, the league will most likely be decided when we face Liverpool. Will Arteta just throw in reserves to save players for the champion? I think it'll be won by then already. I think if Liverpool win their next game, they've won the league. If they not, if they beat Spurs, how funny is it that for 2 seasons in a row, Tottenham are the team that basically hand the league to the team that are winning it? How funny! If Liverpool win the league, they'll be on 82 points. Arsenal can still win a maximum of 15, which would leave them on 81. So if Liverpool win one more game in their last 5, they are champions. So I don't think it will come down to that game, mate, at all. I think it'll be decided well before then. Gabby says, how do you feel about Houssem Aouar? Seems like a decent player. I just woke up from a coma in 2021. How funny how time flies, isn't it? Houssem Aouar used to be talked about every single day by us on Arsenal channels. Away says, Tom, can you ask Arteta who asked the best questions from all the reporters? Yes. Ian says, despite being terrible, they might end up having the Europa League, which is mad, and trophies matter. Let's go Arsenal win the season. I know it is nuts, isn't it? Like, they are awful. They were awful last season on the FA Cup. They're awful this season, and they win the Europa League. It is mad. I still wouldn't swap places. I don't think any of you would want to swap places with Man United. I mean, if Arsenal finish second, get to a Champions League semi, maybe even a final, League Cup semi, are you swapping seasons with them if they win the Europa League? I mean, I'm not personally, but I know that some people, that's how they view football, Mike says, do you think that we'll see Havertz in midfield next season if we sign a striker? I think we'll see him rotating. I think we might see him in midfield. We might see him in other attacking positions. He will definitely get opportunities playing in a number of different positions as well. Lee says, do you think Partey has a bigger chance of getting extended or Jorginho? I think either of them have a chance of getting extended, to be honest. Neither have any chance. You'd say he probably has more of a chance, maybe, but neither are going to be from the looks of things. Paul says, will we go strong against Crystal Palace, whose focus will be on the FA Cup semi-final? I think Arsenal will want to win the game. I think Arteta will want to win the game. I think that, we've got a 6-day break before we play PSG because we aren't playing at the weekend. And so, therefore, that needs to be considered. Rich said, FL's reporting that Real Madrid or Saka. Are we? Are we reporting that? I've not said that, so I don't think we're reporting that. Did you read the article? Did it contain any further? Let's have a look, shall we? Where's the story coming from? So I'm on the article, and it says, according to Defence Central, this is what I mean. You need to be careful when we're saying so-and-so reporting something. Make sure you check the article to see what the source of the information is. according to Defensive Central, Real Madrid are keen on signing Bukayo Saka. I messaged a friend of mine in the Spanish press yesterday to just basically ask the question. I said, is this what usually happens when Real Madrid are dumped out the competition by a team? Do they effectively just start linking the players that either are already at Arsenal or that are linked with Arsenal, or respectively a team that have beaten Real Madrid? Did they start linking those players with the club? And the answer was yes. Very salty are the Real Madrid press, it seems. Perry says, can we expect a similar structure with Trossard as striker, Rice at 6 and Merino on the left 8? I think so. I think that's probably what is most likely to be expected in that game next week. I think that's what we can probably expect. Lee says, if Zubi is going to Real Madrid this summer, do you see Arsenal target another CDM? Yeah, I think they will target another CDM. But at the moment, that's not a feeling that Zubi is going to Real Madrid. The feeling is that he will be coming to Arsenal. Answer says, Ipswich are bad, but hardly get battered. Don't you think it was more about how good we are? It was a bit of both, Answer. You know, it was a bit of both. We were really good. They were really bad. I think that was pretty much the story of the game. Ian says, I would have swapped the trophies they won with the league position. That's not the question, though, Ian. The question is, would you swap places with them? Players, manager, team, league position, the trophies of the last season, maybe this season. That's the question. You can't have it both ways. You can't have our league position, our squad, our manager, and those trophies. The question is, would you swap us and them, their manager with our manager, their players with our player, league position with our league position, the trophy last season with what we got, etc. and so on? That's the question. Kira says, isn't it mental that we finished 8th and the media was pushing Leicester should replace us in the top 6, but there's hardly been any beep about how bad Man United have been and Spurs have been? We are massive. Gabby says, I think some experimentation is in store against Palace. We need all hands on deck against PSG. Maybe Miles Lewis-Skelly at 6 if fit. Maybe Calafiori at left back. There's a chance that we could see Calafiori back for that game, but I think it would be a big push to see him start in that fixture. A very, very big push indeed. Why not? Because that was what we said. I don't know what else to say. The question was, would you swap everything with Man United to have that trophy? And you said, I would swap this, but I wouldn't swap this. That's not the question. What do you mean, why not? That was the question. Paul says, Real Madrid like to destabilize players and get them to run down their contracts and then buy them on a free. They're starting to destabilize Saka early. I don't think they are, mate. I think Saka's very, very stable. Amberley says, I'm starting to think Arteta could make Real work at striker. I doubt that'll be an issue. Yeah, he just seems to be able to work miracles, doesn't he? I have to say that something has to fall on you guys and the fans in the broader context. You're the one, you lap up this mess. Why are you lapping up articles from Spain about Saka? Why are people even giving it any energy in a sense of like, yeah, that we believe that? Now, aggregation aside, like, come on, like, let's be a bit sensible here. We know that's rubbish. We know that is a load of rubbish. And look, it says here, FL actually in that article where they aggregate that story, says, as we are seeing with Trent Alexander-Arnold at present, Real Madrid presents a strong pool for many players. They have nearly an unlimited pot of money to purchase stars, and many players aim to represent them one day. Jude Bellingham's presence means that Saka would have an easy time settling in. However, Arsenal are not in the position where they need to sell, and they can offer Saka a brilliant project too. Let's remember the Gunners put Madrid to the sword last night and have ultimately a strong base to fend off interest. Arsenal fans do not need to be worried just yet, says there in those words. Arsenal fans do not need to be worried. But we lap it up. We lap it up. And it gives you, because, and he said, why is FL reporting it? Because if you read the article, Rich, it gives you what we think about that rumour. And it says right underneath it, Arsenal fans do not need to be worried. So we see the stories and we give you the context so that you don't have to be worried. You don't have to lap it up. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to give it more energy than it needs. Zoom says, what of tackle on Odegaard before the cards and the penalty for the Saka on Saka? No mention. Thought it was studs on knee and nasty, but never got a mention. Was it another red card? I don't remember that at all. You've spotted something, Zoom, that I've completely forgotten about. So afraid I haven't got a comment. Tom, thank you so much for becoming a member of the channel. Hugely appreciate you being here and welcome to the TGT family. John says, Tom, after City knocked Madrid out 2 seasons ago, Spanish papers linked them with Haaland and Rodri. Enough said. Paul says, I don't believe anything from any outlet until the player being brought or sold and the relevant clubs say they are leaving or have indeed been bought. So there you go. it's worth pointing that out. People could do it that way. I say that's always the way that you should probably go. Is if you don't want to have to wear your tinfoil hats every day, just wait until you see an announcement. Just don't read stuff. Don't watch stuff. If you're the type of person that gets sucked into these stories, maybe just leave it to one side. Terrible advertisement for my own channel, of course, but I'd much rather you looked after your own mental health and put things to one side. That's much more important. Gabby says, since some news outlets say KDB may still want to stay in the Prem, would Arsenal be willing to get him for 1 to 2 years? I don't think that Arsenal would be looking to sign Kevin De Bruyne. I just don't think that would be something that they would do. They're looking to, yes, they want to bring in players to win now. De Bruyne, when he was asked about the idea of moving to another English club, he didn't rule it out, which I did find quite interesting. But I just don't see Arsenal signing KDB. I just don't see it. I'd be very, very surprised if that was to happen. Don't get me wrong. I think it'd make a great one-year signing, especially to add competition for Odegaard while we wait for maybe a better option to come available on the market. But, I just can't see that. Can't see it happening. Dappy says, what are you having for breakfast this morning? Probably a pano raisin, mate, because I don't know if you're aware of this thing in the UK. We've got this thing called Too Good To Go, which is like an app where like shops that have got produce that's left over from the day that they can't then sell the next day because it's technically beyond what the legal requirements allow them to sell them for that amount of time. And so you can go onto that app and then pick up for really, really cheaply. And in that sense, you've got the ability to get stuff that is still great to eat really cheaply. So I recommend that to anyone. Too Good To Go. That's the app. Go and check it out. No, we're not sponsored by them. So, Paul says, Tom, at least FL say the source of the report of the show and where the articles and our opinion pieces, and they're always a good read. Thank you, Paul. Really appreciate that. Kind words. So I mean, it's a thing. It's the point is it gives the opinion. It says at the top of the article as well, opinion. Gives you the opinion of what we think about that particular report. So yeah, it's if you read headlines and if you take the story from a headline, headlines are like book covers. We know the game. Headlines are like book covers. They don't tell you the full story. The book cover is there to try and get to read the book. You're not a very good publicist of a book if you have a boring, Romeo and Juliet. Imagine that, spoiler alert coming up. Just a picture of them dying at the end of the story. Imagine that was the book cover of Romeo and Juliet. Both of them just dead. Imagine if that was the case. That is book covers, headlines. That's what they are. We do it here. You look at our thumbnails. Like it's how it works. That's just media in 2025. But it's just like old man shouts at cloud. That's how it works. Yeah, I get it. I get frustrations around it, but at least when you go into that article, it tells you what the source is, tells you what they're reporting, and it tells you what we think about it. It tells you what we think, and we point out very clearly in that piece that's written by Jack Flinton that you don't have anything to worry about. But we're just saying, here's a story. It's there. It's out there. Probably best not to worry. So you don't need to. Gabby says, fun question, Tom. Who was the best player who was linked with us? Probably nothing could beat Benzema. It's Ronaldo, mate. 100% it's Ronaldo. It's always Ronaldo. The answer is always going to be Ronaldo. And Jay says, I forget that you haven't seen Game of Thrones. No, I haven't seen Game of Thrones. No, and you were making an Ice and Fire reference, but yeah, I'm sorry, I've not seen it. It's not on my it's not on my list. It's just not on my list. Lemon says people these days are too lazy to read past the headline. No wonder people vote against their own interests. Oh. What's that? What was the big thing on the bus? £350 million NHS. Lapped it up. I voted leave. Anyway, less Brexit talk, the better. I think. 11 mod says people. We've just done that. I mean, it's worth reading it again. Just 11 mod. Wisdom. Right there. Read it. don't want to go into the dangerous political area. And Dan says, I love the app. Great on a night out or on the journey home from work. It is. It's a great app. Too good to go. Make sure you check it out. Tom, brilliant app. It is too good to go. Make sure you check it out. It's worth having. It's a secret weapon, always. Jay says, I thought we don't do politics on this show. Yeah, it's like 10%, if that. A little bit. I just like reminding people about the bad decisions that we've made in our lives, just so that we ideally won't make them again. Completely, like, it's pointless because people do just make the same mistake over and over and over and over again, vote for things that just hurt themselves. But, you know, it is, yeah, people's hatred, I guess, kind of like takes over their mind. Let's bring it back to football. Top Dog says, Marino's touch was sublime. And you're not wrong. It was absolutely fantastic. And I will not have anyone telling me that he was trying to score. He wasn't. You can tell by the type of flick that he's doing. You can tell by the fact that where he is and he looks and knows where Martinelli's going to be. It's great. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. One of my favourite moments of the season. Just in an individual thing. Akira says, PSG ballot today. Let's be having it. Best of luck, of course, to all of you, of course, that are applying for tickets. And I really hope that those that are really trying to go, that are going to sing their lungs out, are indeed the ones that are most successful. If you win the ballot, please do us a favour. Please do us a favour and sing to your absolute max. Raj, I will not be giving you my thoughts on the end of Severance because I'm sure there are people in the chat box that have not seen the end of Severance, and I do not want to spoil that for people. All I will say is it's one of the best finales I have ever seen. So enjoy. If you're watching Severance, it's brilliant. Please, if you've not watched it, invest in it. Yes, the first few episodes of Series 1 are a bit of a slog, and you kind of got to get through it because it gives you the context of what the whole thing is about. But get through it. Watch it. It's great. Top 3 shows I've ever seen. Please do watch it. So good. Paul says, did you know that Zinchenko completed 99 out of 100 passes? I didn't know that. That's fantastic. Yeah, certainly. Oliver says, did you know that do you know what kind of stadium display the AA are raising funds for? No, I don't. But I sincerely hope that whatever they are doing, that they decide to A, let the artists know that they use their artwork, and B, collaborate with them in some way. Because if you were not aware, that Thierry Henry display, which was brilliant, one of the best tifos we've ever seen, sadly, the artist was not given any notice of it, was not told that it was being used, was not asked permission to have the artwork used in any way, and was not collaborated with or credited in any way whatsoever. And I'm passionate about this because at the moment, and I know a fair few artists in and around, you know, Arsenal and the work that gets done, and it's a struggling business. Artistry, and particularly in kind of that type of artwork, it's really underfunded, it's underappreciated, and artists are struggling. People, we're in a economic crisis, right now globally, really, and people don't have the money to spend on luxuries like artwork, and that means talented people that do it for a living are struggling themselves because people aren't, the customers aren't there to use the art. So if you're going to use someone's artwork for such an amazing thing, at least credit them. At least credit the artwork that you've used. It's incredibly frustrating when I found that out, that the brilliant tifo that was used, in no way was there any credit given to the artist, anywhere. So I hope the AA, and it's a great cause to create these tifos and to do this, but please give credit to the artistry and to those behind, that stuff, because that would have been, what an amazing thing, like, for that artist to have seen their work. Yes, but then what that crushing reality of, no one's going to know that I'm the person that made that artwork that's been blown up hundreds of times its size and not used. So yeah, please do give credit to those that are indeed creating that artwork, because it's a tough business. It's really, really, really a tough business. Anyway, thank you so much as always for tuning in. Really appreciate your time and listenership. I hope you've had a fantastic weekend. I hope you're ready for a brand new week, of course, as well. And I really look forward to to speaking with you tomorrow, of course, ahead of another big day press conference tomorrow. Probably not going to be there at the presser. I think somebody else is doing it. I've got some stuff going on tomorrow, which I'm excited for in itself. But of course, we'll be back on Wednesday, and then, of course, on Thursday to break down the game against Crystal Palace before a weekend without football for Arsenal ahead of that massive clash against PSG. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful, and as always, up the Arsenal.